Happy New Year's Eve and welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very inspirational show to end the year with. So today our first guest is Atherton Drenth, and she's here today to talk to us about her new book, The Intuitive Dance. So even as a small child, Atherton knew she was really intuitive, and she was tutored in metaphysics, spirituality, religious concepts to help her embrace and understand her abilities. After a near-death experience as a result of a misdiagnosis, Atherton realized what to do with her intuitive gifts and spiritual training. So let's welcome to the show, Atherton.
Thank you, Marianne. It's an honor to be here.
It is such a pleasure to have you here. And my goodness, your book is so informative.
Well, thank you.
It must have taken you some time to get all of this together.
Well, it was a work in progress. The book was the result of pulling together the things that I found helped me when I was getting in touch with my intuition, and I started to share it with clients. And the book basically wrote itself, to be honest. And it was material that my clients had found really helpful, and I was happy to share it, and the book has been a huge success in that regard.
Well, it's so great when you have people that come to you time and time again in regards to a certain situation or question that results in developing a book, because you know it's going to help so many other people.
Exactly, yes.
Well, and so you're a certified medical intuitive and holistic energy practitioner. When did you realize that you had this great level of giftedness?
Well, I was always intuitive. I was very fortunate in the fact that I grew up in a family where my parents were both very psychic and very intuitive, so my abilities to be intuitive were naturally recognized and encouraged. And but for me, I spent most of my life learning how not to use it because I was in the bad habit of just sort of blurting things out. And it wasn't until after I had a near-death experience that I found out that there was something that I could do to use it to help other people. And it was such a gift to be able to find out that there was a way to take what I knew about people, especially when I touched them, and then I could help them on their own healing journey. So that it's like my whole life came together after that, and I finally found my purpose in life.
It must have been such a beautiful time when that first happened, even though going through a near-death experience is never a beautiful time. But, being able to kind of stand in your own level of giftedness and go, gosh, I can do what I'm meant to do now.
Yeah. Well, and in the beginning, I kind of went into it kicking and screaming because the young man who helped me to figure out what was wrong with me and help me to get better, he was the one that identified the fact that I had the ability to help people as well. And at first I thought he was a little nuts. And I told him that, and he just laughed, and he just said, well, if you want to take the course and come and figure it out, why don't you give it a try? So I did. And at first I really quite incredulous. I couldn't understand why everybody in the classroom were coming up to me and saying, well, can you work on me? Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And I thought, what's wrong with these people? I mean, they've been doing it way longer than I have, and I'm just starting to figure this all out. Mm-hmm. But after I finished the training and I started working on my certification, it takes you a year to get your certification, every day just became such a miracle and such a blessing, and I was in constant awe of what wisdom was coming through and how people were being helped. So I found it to be a real gift, and it took me a year to realize that this is what I was really, it was safe to do this for the rest of my life. So I ended up leaving a very high-paying corporate job and opened up my own practice, and I had a full-time practice in a very, very short period of time.
Well, and I think so many people can relate to your story, for those that are gifted or people who, have a giftedness as children and then shut it down for many different reasons. Having to redevelop that connection sometimes can be a little bit of a scary thing. Exactly.
And it takes a lot of trust and faith in yourself and your own self-confidence to let yourself be shown how to use this.
Yeah, and also that education where you have that responsibility as well, because a lot of times when people start off on their own intuitive path, I know when I did, a lot of times they don't realize that there's a level of discernment that has to come along with what it is that you see, and so you have to develop. It's this relationship that you develop with spirit.
Mm-hmm, exactly, and it's a deep honoring, and it's a very respectful one, and it's one that you make sure that you pay attention to. In my mind, if you're going to have any integrity, if you're going to do this kind of work.
Yeah. Well, and so your book actually talks about something else I can't wait to dive into. It's how our ego can interfere with our intuition. And so I thought that was such a great topic, because a lot of times people, egos can be kind of like this kind of elusive thing. They're like, well, I've got it, but I don't know how it would interfere with any of my giftedness.
Mm-hmm. Well, our egos are masters at interfering with our intuition, because it can and will challenge every thought and feeling that you have. When you have an intuitive insight or a sense of something that either feels true or untrue, your ego is very quick to ask, so is that really true, or prove it? Mm-hmm. And it's learning how to understand, it's learning how to discern between what is your intuitive wisdom, that inner love voice that's showing you the truth, versus the ego's fear of, is that true? Should you be doing this? Is this all right? Is that all right? And that takes a certain amount of clarity, and it takes courage, because so often you're overriding even your ego's fears. And I mean, I've been doing this now for close to 18 years, and my students are always surprised when I say, I still am challenged by my ego, by my fear, every single day. And they say, well, how can that be? And I said, because you have to recognize that your ego is a part of you. It's been formed by beliefs, attitudes, your life experiences. So it's always going to be there. The trick is learning how to not believe what it thinks is the truth. So I say that our ego so often will believe something is the truth, but it's really the lie. Mm-hmm. And learning how to honor your intuition means following your truth. It means being honest with yourself, and it means being honest with your clients, and it means being honest with the people in your life.
Yeah, and it's interesting when we allow our ego to kind of take charge when we deal with our intuition. A lot of times it can feel like we're having, as your book so well explains, that disconnect, because we're not trusting anything that we get. And so it's that like seesaw. It's like, ooh, I got this information, but it can't be right, because I heard it or saw it, but I didn't really see it with my eyes.
Yes. Where's the proof?
Mm-hmm. Looking for that proof where, as you said so beautifully before, it's really about faith.
Yes. Well, and we look for proof from others as well. If we're picking up on sadness from someone and we want to prove it, and we say to this person, well, are you feeling sad? I find that 98% of the time that person will be so shocked that you picked up on sadness that they'll deny it. Mm-hmm. And that just sends you into a tailspin, which was my problem as a child. Because I would be picking things up from people, and I'd say, oh, are you feeling sad? Are you all right? Oh, yes, I'm fine. And then that would just send you into a tailspin.
Yeah, and kind of like, gosh, what am I getting here?
Well, and we're always looking for outside validation, aren't we?
Yeah, and it's interesting when we really turn inward and just trust the information that we're getting. Your book talks about this too. It's interesting because that outside validation is not what we're really looking for. We're looking for that confirmation, just within ourselves.
Exactly. Yes.
So, so I think it's great that your book talks about the ego part, because so many people get wrapped up in that. And we kind of talked about it a little bit when we first started in regards to, how they get disconnected from their intuitive gifts. How can they reconnect with those gifts if they're like, okay, so I've mastered my ego. Now I'm ready to kind of, as best I can, because I guess ego is always a forever job. But as best as I can, I'm looking to reconnect with that giftedness that I know I had.
Well, I found that the easiest way to reconnect your intuition is to find out what kind of an intuitive you are. And a lot of people don't realize that there are four different types of intuition. Now, everybody has all four, but one will be dominant. And once I had figured out what my dominant intuitive skill, the other three very quickly opened up, and now they're so interplayed together that sometimes I have to step back and kind of tease them apart if I need to. Mm-hmm. So the four different, and I have a quiz in my book that helps people to determine what kind of an intuitive they are. But there are four primary types of intuition. The first one is being a clairvoyant, which is clear sight. It's the visions you get in your mind. The next is claircognizance, which is clear knowingness. It's just knowing what you know. It's the hunch. The next is the clairaudience, which is clear hearing. That's the voices in your head, the one you never bring up at the doctor's office. And then the last is clairsentience, and that is clear feeling. And clairsentience can either feel people's emotions, or they can get what we call body clues, which means that they will experience the same pain that the other person is experiencing. So the example I use is one day being at work and having lunch with a colleague when all of a sudden my tooth started to hurt, and I started to worry internally that I was going to have to see the dentist, and I was looking puzzled, and she asked me, "Are you feeling all right?" And I said, "Well, I've developed a toothache." And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, isn't that funny?" She says, "I just had a root canal this morning," and she pointed to the place on her jaw where I was feeling pain. And that's when I realized, oh, I'm feeling her tooth. So then I just went, oh, that's not my pain. It went away.
And it's funny when you recognize it like that, how it just dissipates.
Yes. Saved me a lot of money.
Well, and so, I guess it's all about asking the question, is this my pain?
Mm-hmm. It is. And so I say to people who are predominantly clairsentient, the very first question they always ask themselves, no matter what they're feeling or sensing, they must ask, is this mine or does it belong to someone else? If it's theirs, they will know. It will be without a question, no, this is my toothache. If the body goes, well, it's not yours. The other problem that clairsentients have is when they do start to feel or sense someone else's pain or emotions, they start to think, well, I've either caused it, I've created it, or I need to fix it. And that sends them into a tailspin because now they are going by assumptions based on what their ego is telling them when it's really not the truth.
Mm. Well, and so what are some ways that they can identify if it's really, if they've got the truth or not?
Well, that's, for me, gets into what I call intuitive ethics. Mm-hmm. So for the clairsentient, the first thing they need to do is ask, is this mine or is it somebody else's? As you're starting to open up your other intuitive abilities, you start to realize that other people are just as intuitive as you are. You're just more aware of it than they are. Mm-hmm. So with intuitive ethics, and my lovely children taught me these things because both of my children are highly intuitive. And I put it together in 6 concepts, and I wrote them out on cards, and I had them by my phone and on the computer and on my desk because I wanted to make that muscle memory. I wanted to make sure that I was being honest with myself, but I wanted to have the integrity on how I used my intuition, not only for myself, but in my personal relationships, but also with clients as well. Mm-hmm. Because when you start to become more conscious of your intuition and allow yourself to follow it, you become very aware of the fact that you know answers. So the first one is just because you know doesn't mean you do. So just because you can sense, feel, or think that you know how to fix the problem doesn't give you permission to discuss it or bring it up. All you can do is stay present. This person's got sadness. I'm aware of sadness. I'm being present with sadness. The next principle is wait to be asked. Until the person brings up sadness and asks for help, there's nothing I can do. But if they do bring up sadness, I can say, so are you asking me for advice, or do you just need me to listen? And in the beginning, I was really surprised at how often people would say to me, no, I just want you to listen. I'm not asking you for any advice. I just need a shoulder to cry on. Okay, I'm good with that. Going back to my place of being present. The next is only do as asked. If they do ask you for help, then be very clear about what they're asking for help with. You may sense sadness. They may be telling you a sad story, but they may not be asking you to help them with sadness. They may be asking you about a totally different thing. So once I have clarity on what exactly they're asking for advice for, I don't tell them what to do. I offer them suggestions, and I hand it back to them. I'm always handing it back. Because you have to learn how to trust other people's soul journeys. And just because you think you know, and you think you've got the answers, and if they would only just do it this way, I know they would be okay, isn't honoring their soul journey. It isn't honoring their soul maturity. So it's important that you always hand it back.
Well, and I think it gets a little into kind of spiritual arrogance, too, to think that people, these people who are here and they're different souls can't handle the situations that are there. I mean, we all need a hand up every once in a while, but they have the information within them on how to, the best direction to go for them.
And we have no idea what their soul is trying to learn. And, yes, it is hard to stand back and watch somebody suffer, or what you consider to be suffering. But again, you have no idea what it is that they're learning, and it might be the best thing in the world that happens for them.
Yeah. And moving them forward.
My mother's statement was always, okay, well, now that you know what the problem is, what are you going to do about it?
That's a good one.
Yeah, nothing snaps you back into clarity faster than that.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I'm not going to fix this for you. I'm going to honor you to figure this out.
Well, it really puts them in such a place of personal power and responsibility when they can, survey different solutions and decide what's best for them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I know in your book you talk about how being aware of our intuition helps to deal with stress and anxiety. Is this a part of it where we are able to kind of understand a little bit more about, just kind of what's going on with us and the world at large? How does that work with stress and anxiety?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to understand that, we're told by society that if we are experiencing stress and anxiety in our life, that if we eat right and exercise and get out into nature and meditate and get enough sleep, that we should be able to deal with stress and anxiety in our lives. And to me, that just becomes more to-dos on a very long list. And what I have learned from experience in my own life and, with working with so many people from around the world for the last 18 years, is that I think we have it all wrong. I think that the true core of stress and anxiety isn't because of what's going on in our lives. It's because of what's going on inside our minds. And it's that ego voice always challenging us, putting us down, keeping us from our truth. It keeps us from being honest with ourselves, and it prevents us from being honest with others. So once a person starts to understand that they are intuitive and that they can learn to listen to their intuition and they can start to trust it, then they can start to learn how to manage that ego voice within themselves. And once they start to understand the clarity between what is intuition and what is the ego, so the ego for me has always been, that crazy little voice in the back of your mind with its withering commentary.
Mm-hmm.
And intuition has always been that calm, loving wisdom that takes us back to who we truly are, which I say is our inner Zen, our connection to soul. And if you can learn how to differentiate between this is my ego voice and this is my intuition, start letting the intuition show you where the truth or the untruth is around the ego, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So ego is very much based in fear, and, there's legitimate fear, and then there's what I call manufactured fear. So, for example, legitimate fear is if you're out for a walk in the woods and you're charged by a bear, you're going to run. That's fight or flight. That's legitimate. If you are taught as a child, be careful crossing the street, you need to look both ways, well, then that is a legitimate fear that is being taught to your ego that needs to be there, okay?
Yeah.
Manufactured fear is when the ego steps in and saying, well, is that true? How do you know it's true? Maybe you better get proof. Did they really say that? Well, you can't do anything right. And then you start falling into this pattern of all these assumptions which just create a lot of stress and anxiety in our lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you begin to trust your intuition, you start to realize that you have developed a habit of doing things based on what you are afraid they might be true, and your intuition directs you back to being honest with yourself and doing what is right for you. So our egos drive us with judgment and fear, but our intuition is really the reality check.
And when we ask our intuition something, we can feel if it resonates with us or not. So we kind of know that we're on track, especially if we're just going to sit quietly and not let the ego, pretty much, be in charge.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I know that you also talk in your books about, shifting our thoughts and assessing our beliefs, and this all kind of ties back into the whole ego thing, and kind of a lot of it also programming that we've had as children. Mm-hmm. So when we're doing this about, kind of redesigning how our thoughts should be, or how we would like them to look, and assessing our beliefs, what are some tips for our listeners that they can go ahead and start putting that into practice so they can make those changes that they're looking to make in their lives?
I teach what I call the 3 simple things, and what it does is it helps people to learn how to be more in control of their energy right from the very beginning so that they can listen to their intuition more clearly. The 3 simple things are the vertical axis, fear cord cutting, and dream time management. Now, the vertical axis is a grounding technique, and before I explain to your listeners exactly what that means, I'm often asked by people what it means to be grounded. And what it means to be grounded is that it teaches you how to be in control of your thoughts and feelings. So when you are grounded, you have clarity. You are able to divide out what is fear-based, based to what is honest, truth-based. So the vertical axis is a grounding technique that helps us to ground, stabilize our emotional field, if you will, by linking our energy into heaven and earth and bringing the two of them together into the heart. Mm-hmm. When you're grounded into the vertical axis, it's much easier for you to hear your intuition. It helps to calm you down, and you're less likely to be manipulated by other people's personal agendas. The next thing is cord cutting with the angels, which is very easy to do. Every thought and feeling that we have creates energy that goes out, and they become like a spider web. They get very sticky, and they stick to other people. And we all do it. I mean, I'm just as guilty of making fear cords with other people. They're very common between parents and their children, for example. Now that I'm a grandmother, I do a lot of cord cutting with my grandbabies. So when people understand that every thought and feeling that they have, especially if they're fear-based, sends out these spider webs, they start to get very sticky after a while, and you can get bogged down with them. So there's the technique of fear cord cutting with the angels, and what you do is you just call in Archangel Michael and you ask him to cut cords with everybody that you've been in contact with, because angels will not and cannot cut love cords. You are only getting rid of the fear. And that helps to calm your field down because you're shedding a lot of stuff that you've picked up subconsciously that isn't even yours. And the last thing is dream time management. And with dream time management, what ends up happening is that for a lot of us, especially if we're in any form of service industry, and we are doing our best to be of service to others, and we have that integrity, and we have that drive to really be of service, often what happens is we are busy working all day, but then we go into the dream time and we work all night. And the classic symptom of that is waking up day after day, feeling burned out and exhausted. So what happens with dream time management is when we go to sleep, everybody leaves their body. Whether you're aware of it or not, we all leave, and we travel to what's called the astral plane. And the astral plane has 2 different levels. And the lower level of the astral plane is where a lot of us hang out and try to fix the problems that we weren't able to resolve during the day. And what we are doing is we are not allowing our physical and emotional and spiritual bodies a chance to rest. So what you can do is you can ask for and again, I work with Archangel Michael, but you can work with any archangel or Jesus or Mother Mary, and ask them to guide you to the higher levels of spiritual intelligence in the astral plane so that you can receive spiritual instruction on how best to deal with these issues. And in the meantime, have them work with your physical body so that you wake up every morning fully rested, restored, and renewed. So if people wanted something really quick and easy, then if they read the book and find out what kind of an intuitive they are, and then they go to the back of the book and look at the 3 simple things, which can all be done in less than 5 minutes a day, and we've proven it in a research study, that they will find that those 2 particular things, the 3 simple things, and finding what an intuitive they are can make a dramatic improvement into their quality of life.
Well, and I'm so glad that you touched on grounding, because, the next question I had was in regards, and you kind of talked about this a little bit in regards to the cord cutting, but when we also create shields for ourselves, a lot of times people aren't really sure why we would do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, we all know the white light of protection technique. It's been around since the mid-50s, and it's a great technique for protecting yourself. But what it does is it makes you feel separate. And what shielding does is it allows you to be protected in your core, but to shield yourself with energy so that you can still sense and feel other people without having them attach, connect, or drain you. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, when I was first learning the white light of technique, it would work to a point, but then my clients started to report that they felt me to be very distant. They could shake my hand, but they couldn't give me a hug. Mm-hmm. And I remember going into meditation and asking Archangel Michael, well, what do I do about this? Because I know that on one hand I have to protect my energy field so that I'm not getting drained in sessions, but on the other hand, my clients are finding me to be very cold. And he said, well, you can fill yourself up with the white light, but then you can fill your field with the white light and then turn it into a pink energy that's filled with love. So people can see you and feel you and touch you, but they still can't connect or attach or drain you. And now I get hugged all the time, so I love it. I call it my creamsicle, actually. Right? White on the inside and pink on the outside.
Well, you got to love that, and that's so great that you went and found that information, because, people do sometimes, it's like, hey, I'm not being distant, I'm just trying to protect myself energetically, mm-hmm. Especially if you're going to be in large crowds or you're sensitive to connections with other people, and one of the things I hear quite often is when someone, reconnects with their intuition, a lot of times it can feel like someone's just turned up the speakers on everything. It feels really tense to be in areas. So learning how to ground and protect yourself is a real important thing.
And it can be overwhelming, mm-hmm. especially people who are highly sensitive and empathetic. They feel everything, and it's very hard for them even to be out in public for any length of time because they're feeling so much. So shielding becomes a very effective technique for them to be able to protect themselves and still feel things without getting drained and feeling like they're attacked.
Yeah, it's so true when it's kind of like when you're around certain people, you feel like all of your energy is gone, and you're with other people, you feel like you've just had a boost in your energy. It's so true how this all impacts us.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I know that in your book you also talk about energetic do-overs. So what is that, and why would we have a do-over?
Well, sometimes things just go sideways, don't they? Mm-hmm. We are, we have a friendship with somebody, and something goes wrong, and we try to fix it, and it just gets worse. And we don't know why, and we're not always sure what part we had to play in the drama. However, it happened, and we're left with this aftermath of, so what now? What do we do? Maybe your friend was upset, and you misread the situation, or you failed to be loving enough in response. Your intuition got it all wrong, or they had an expectation. I find expectations very difficult to deal with because people have an expectation on how you should respond to them, but they don't tell you what that expectation is. And, or maybe you have a relative who's going through a tough time and you couldn't help at the time, or maybe you thought you were doing the right thing only to find out later it was completely the wrong thing to do. So life happens, right? And the bottom line is that we are all souls having a human experience. And the bottom line is that the experience can be painful, gut-wrenching, and heart-destroying and devastating. And it's really hard to come back from that and feel like you can stand up and love again.
Yeah.
So what energetic do-overs do is they open the door to healing at a higher level of vibration. We forget that love can heal all wounds when you give it a chance. Sometimes that healing doesn't happen the way we want it to, and it doesn't happen as quickly as we want to. But if you've done everything in your power to try to fix it and the other party isn't there yet, then there's only so much you can do. So what an energetic do-over does is it releases and removes any toxic energy that's been created between two people and replaces it with love so that all the parties involved can move forward with a more positive vibration. Now, people may not see the benefit of that right away. I know I was, several years ago, I was involved in a situation where to this day, I do not know what I said or did, but this person just went right off the deep end. And I was just like, are we in the same room here? Like, did I miss a memo? And nothing I said or did was going to resolve this. So I just went and did an energetic do-over. And what I did in this particular situation, because it was so toxic, is I went in and I did it every day. And I did it every day for 3 weeks. And then I just thought, I've done my best. I've handed it over to God. I've done my best. And now I'm going to leave it up to God. And 6 months later, it was like nothing ever happened between us.
Well, it's nice to have those because we really never know what other people are going through or what they perceive, because it's interesting. A lot of times we are just managing our misperceptions in regards to other people and situations. And when we have these things like energetic do-overs, it allows us to really get the energy clear so that, the possibility for having any kind of reconciliation will happen.
Yeah. And, in the way I look at it, it may not happen in my lifetime, but at least I've done everything in my power to make sure that whatever part I played in this karmic
little dance there.
The karmic dance, thank you. Yeah. Will, I've given it permission to be healed.
And so that way everyone can move forward from that, because it really, we don't want to leave anything karmically, as best as we can,
Yeah. Try to clean up as much as you can before you go.
Because Lord knows, before I became aware, I'm sure I had, and I'm sure other people feel the same way. It's kind of like, gosh, there's just a little wake of karmic carnage behind me, Like, I've got some fixing to do. Yeah, but it's really interesting because people can pick up your book, The Intuitive Dance, and they can start to learn how to just really understand not only what intuition means for them, but discover their gifts, how to protect themselves, how to clear their energy, what some things that are appropriate and not appropriate, because your book has so much information that really walks people through pretty much every aspect of that.
Yes.
So what final thoughts would you like to leave our listeners with?
Well, I would say that I think that if we truly understood the gifts that we have intuitively, and we started to use them to be honest with ourselves and to be more lovingly honest with others, that we could be a different society in one generation. I think it would make us better parents, better leaders, and better human beings. And I hope that when people read the book and they start to utilize these techniques in their own life, that they find that helps them with that awareness on their journey.
And being able to move forward and all that. Well, and so, Atherton, where can people connect with you and be part of your community?
They can go to my website, and I'll spell it out because it is a rather unusual name. It's Atherton Drenth, and it's spelled ATHERTONDRENTH.com. And there they'll find a link to my newsletter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. They can find copies of my book. My book is also available at all major outlets such as Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Indigo in Canada. Mm-hmm. And I will have an audio version of my book will be released very shortly.
Oh, how very exciting. So, and are you the one who's reading the book, or do you have someone that's reading the book?
I have someone who's reading the book.
Ooh, sounds very exciting. Well, and do you also do like distance sessions if someone wanted to work with you distantly?
Yes. So people would call in and make an appointment. They can either see me in person or they can do what's called a distance. And my assistant will walk them through that process because I work with people from around the world, and a large number of them I've never met.
No, I'm sure. I don't doubt that. I mean, with your level of giftedness, I'm sure you have people all over the planet that reach out to you in regards to spending time with you and just kind of working on whatever their stuff is.
Yes, thank you.
Well, Atherton, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Well, you're welcome. It's been an honor to speak with you, and thank you so much. I really appreciate your help in getting the word out there.
Oh, well, thank you. We are going to pause here for a quick break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 1-2-3 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
Do you know that you can become a genius at any age? Do you know that you can change your life and create a brilliant life for yourself? Hi, I am Olympia LaPointe, an award-winning rocket scientist who you more than likely have seen on TED Talks, Impact Theory, and PBS. Check out my latest book, Answers Unleashed, The Science of Unleashing Your Brain's Power. Simply go to AnswersUnleashed.com books and check it out for yourself. You'll find the tools to help you create the life you've always wanted.
The highly acclaimed and newly released book, The Hand Part 2 by Lynn Van Praagh Grattan, describes the journey between a psychic medium and a family who lost a son. Messages from Beyond Eternity's Gate is of love and healing. For more information, visit www.lynnvanpraagh-grattan.com. That's www.lynnvanpraagh-grattan.com.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted to be introducing our next guest as part of our New Year's Eve special here, Melissa Alvarez. And she's here today to talk to us about her new book, Believe and Receive. So Melissa is a best-selling, award-winning author who has written over 10 books and nearly 500 articles on self-help, spirituality, and wellness. As a professional intuitive coach, energy worker, spiritual advisor, medium, an animal communicator with over 25 years of experience, Melissa has helped thousands of people bring clarity, joy, and balance into their lives. So let's welcome to the show, Melissa.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on today.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to do this again. Gosh, we were talking, about a year ago with your last book, and here you are again with another amazing book.
Thank you. Yeah, another one from animal frequency to natural laws of the universe. So
I use the animal frequency quite a bit, I have to tell you.
Do you?
One of my favorite
That's
books,
awesome.
actually.
Thank you.
So how did this new book come into being? Where did you even get the idea for this?
Well, there's a lot of people, everybody knows what the law of attraction is, and everybody uses the law of attraction, but not everyone realizes there's so many other laws that you could bring into play into your life to bring you all the things that you're desiring in your life. So I wanted to write a book that addressed more of the different laws to give people a broader range of laws that they could work with, and have a specific meaning for it. So, like, if you're using the law of attraction, you're trying to bring something to you. But if you're using the law of divine oneness, you're trying to become more within your own soul and connecting to the universe in that way. So there's different ways to connect to the laws. And I just saw, the law of attraction. And I'm like, but there's more, guys. Why don't we look at more of them? So that's why I wrote this.
Gosh, in your book, you talk about all sorts of laws. I think you have 40 altogether.
There's 40. There are 40. I mean, there's like hundreds of laws, but I tried to pick 40. I mean, you can only include so many in a book, So I tried to pick the ones that I thought would be the most pertinent to everybody's daily life and things that they might encounter in their life that they could use the law for, just like the law of forgiveness. We all have times when we have to forgive somebody or we have to forgive ourselves or how a situation happens. So that was one that I felt was important to include.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of people hear this all the time. You talk about gratitude, like the law of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, well, wait a minute. I've heard of that. And they don't really think that that's one of the laws.
Right. But when you think of it as a law and you apply gratitude, from a spiritual perspective within yourself, and you let that go over to the people around you, then it can just bring so much joy into your life. But if you don't know that's the law, then you just say, oh, thanks, but there's more to it than that. It's deeper and it's more of a connection with the divine, and you have to really, truly mean it when you're telling people that you're thankful for them, not just, giving it lip service. So, I tried to give a more in-depth look at each law so that, it would be easy for people to understand it and to put it to use.
Yeah, because it really is, interesting how these all are interwoven within one another. So, if, let's say someone has your book, Believe and Receive, what is the best way for them to use your book?
What I suggest doing is to read the book first, okay, so you familiarize yourself with each of the 40 laws. And then you can use them for a specific purpose, as we've discussed, like for gratitude or divine oneness. Or you can just like flip through it during the day and say, okay, universe, what do you think I need to work on today? And you just flip open to the page, and then you'll be drawn to the law that is important to you at that time. So I think that's a good way to do it is, to read through, and then know that all these are at your disposal and you can use them one at a time. Now, universal law is always working. It's always going on in the universe. It's always there for our disposal. But once we learn to recognize the different laws, then we can say, okay, I need to access this one right now, or I need to access that one. And then we can use those to help ourselves to achieve our desires.
Yeah. Well, and, I can't think of a better time than today to be talking about your book. I mean, my goodness, it's New Year's Eve, and tomorrow's the beginning of the new year, so people can pick up your book and then start using it to get change in their lives. And one of the questions I have for you is, how long does it take for someone to implement change?
That varies. It depends on what you want to do and how you go about doing, achieving it. But there's one thing that's important about that. We always want it now. Okay, we want to achieve what we want to achieve today. But the universe will almost always go, well, you know what? I don't think you need that today. I think maybe I'll give you that in a month or 6 months because you need to work on yourself more. Or, the universe doesn't work in our time frame. So it may take longer, and you may want to give up, and you may think, oh, I'm never going to get this because I don't see it working. Well, energy is always flowing, and I work with energy a lot, with the frequency, personal vibration, and the frequency and the energy of the universe. So you got to understand that while that energy is moving, your energy has to move along with it. And if you're able to keep the momentum going, then you're able to achieve your goals. Now, one thing that's important is the law of action. The law of action states that you've got to work to get what you want. So you can't just really throw it out there to the universe and say, okay, I want to do this. And whatever that goal is, you can't just say, hey, universe, I want this, give it to me, and expect it to just fall in your lap. Now, sometimes that does happen, and when it does, it's wonderful. But 99.9% of the time, you have to take action to obtain results. So if you're not taking appropriate actions, and if you're not working hard to get to your goal, then you're not going to achieve it in the time frame that you want if you achieve it at all. And that's the one thing that I've noticed, with the law of attraction. A lot of people will say, I tried that and it just didn't work for me because I wanted this and it never came. And then I'll say, well, what did you do to get it? Nothing. Well, if you don't do anything, you're not going to get anything. You know what I mean? So it'll take time to get to you, but everything comes to you when it's supposed to. It might not be the right time yet. You might not need a new puppy today. You might not. You might have something coming.
Always use a new puppy.
Well, you might have something. Well, I have so many animals, I can't say a word about that. But you might be getting a job promotion that you're not aware of yet, and you might have to move. So you might not be able to have a puppy. So you might want the puppy now, but there's other things at work why you're not getting it. Do you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you kind of answered a little bit of one of the questions I have, and I'm just kind of so excited. I'm asking you all these questions here, but the question was: can we use one law at a time or all of them together? Because you talked about the law of action and how we have to use that, and if that's the only law we use, and I think do people get stuck, or how does that all work?
Well, I think, so the laws are always going on, and there's going to be, every day we have different situations that present themselves, like the law of gratitude. You may have something happen while you're out shopping where you feel the need to connect with the law of gratitude. And then you may be trying to achieve a goal that is your particular goal that has nothing to do with other people. And then that's another law. So they're all working all the time, and you just have to access them as you need them. Everything blends together. I mean, the universe is very, not complicated, but the energy flows constantly. So if you're able to tap into that energy as you need it, these laws can help you in specific circumstances or in a specific situation where you might need assistance. And by using the laws, you can draw that energy to you, and you can share your own energy with others, and that brings more joy to you and more happiness, and it can help you achieve the things that you want in life.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people get stuck in where's my stuff? You know, we've heard like Abraham Hicks talked about that a long time ago. Where's my stuff? And when you get kind of thrown in the woods with that, you know, it really kind of puts you off kilter with everything else. And I love how you described these different laws. And one of them I'd love for you to share about a little bit is the law of faith. I just love that.
Yeah, because you have to have faith in yourself that you can achieve the goals that you're reaching out for. You have to have faith that things are going to work out the way they're supposed to. Now, I thoroughly believe that before we're born, we make out a life map for ourselves with specific lessons and achievements and goals that we're going to accomplish and experience while we're on the earth plane. With that, you know, you have to believe, it's like the title of the book, you have to believe it to receive it, because if you don't have faith and you don't believe in what you're trying to accomplish in your life, then you're not going to attain the level of success that you could if you did believe. If you always have a negative attitude instead of a positive attitude, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, everybody always talks about have a positive attitude, you know, do stay away from the negative. But that's so true, because when you fall into negativity, it really can like pull you down. And these laws, you know, they can help lift you up if you're feeling low. They can help you connect to your inner self. They can help you experience life at its fullest. But it's up to you to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and say, you know, this is what I want to do, and this is how I'm going to achieve it, and use that law of action and go forward, and use the law of faith and believe in yourself and believe in what you can achieve and believe that the universe has your best interest at heart and that you will get what you're trying to attain. It might not be today. It might not be in 6 months. But eventually you're going to have that puppy running around your feet. You know what I mean? So
I've got an old dog doing that right now. So
yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, it's interesting because, you know, I love how you talk about the law of action and why it's important, because a lot of times people, you know, you're so right, because you talked about this earlier, they'll kind of get stuck in, like, I'm doing it all, and I'm sitting and meditating, and, you know, I'm thinking of fluffy, little butterflies flying around and unicorns or whatever, and, you know, and now I'm done. You know? So
let me just say something about that. So
you have something to say about that.
So that's totally fine, but that is a lot of times people get caught up in the doing and not in the soulful feeling that goes with it. So if you're imagining what you want, but you're not really feeling it deep in your heart and deep at a soul level, then it's easy to get stuck in a rut. Or the other thing that happens is people say, you know, I must be doing something wrong. Well, you're not really doing anything wrong. You just, it may not be the time for what you're trying to achieve because of reasons you're not aware of yet. So, you know, if you feel like it, what I try to tell people is if you feel like you're stuck in a rut and you feel like you're not moving forward when you're working on a particular law, then pick a different law. Maybe you don't need to be working on that law at the moment. You know, try something else. Or anytime you get stuck, try to look at, why am I stuck here? What am I doing that's not giving me momentum? What's not pushing me from behind to get me to move forward? What am I doing, and how can I do it differently? And if you look for the reasons of why you might be stuck, then you can make changes so that you can unstick yourself from where you're at. And right now, you know, beginning of a new year, this is a perfect time to do it. Look at things you've done in the past that may not have worked for you. Let go of, release things that are no longer working for you. Make space in your life for something new to come to you. And then start the new year on a new foot in positive, you know, emotions and looking forward and taking action and having faith in yourself. And just say, you know what, I'm going to do it. And I don't care how much I have to do to achieve it. I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to attain my goals. Because working hard is going to help you get there more than just, you can't just sit on your couch and say, oh, I wish I had this and think you're going to get it. I mean, life doesn't work that way. You have to put the effort in to get the results back. And these laws can make it easier for you to do that if you apply them.
Well, when you were writing this book, and because I look at the laws, I'm like, oh, yeah, of course. And I'm like, oh, this makes sense. So it's all pretty, it seems so intuitive. Is that how they came to you, or is this knowledge that you've had just all of your life?
Well, I've always known about the different laws, but when I was writing this book, all of my books are written intuitively. Just like with Animal Frequency, it was a connection with all those animals. And it was a connection with the laws. And I tried to sit and connect with the law and say, okay, the energy of the law, I'm asking you to tell me what is important about this law and that will help people the most. Because the point of writing books like I write is to help people grow along their spiritual path. So if I didn't do it intuitively, then I don't think I would have the same, I don't know what the word is, the same connection to the readers. If I just wrote, I don't like to write dry. I like to, for when a reader is reading my books, I want them to feel like they're sitting there talking to me about it, and that we're having a conversation. Now, telling you about the laws, I've got to tell you, the history of the laws, and I got to tell you where they started, and, I tell about the law, but then I also give my own intuitive intake, about the law so that people, I just think in writing that way, it helps to let the reader connect with the energy of the law better.
Yeah, they're able to really kind of understand what that means for them. Because I think it would affect everyone, in some ways kind of a little differently.
Of course, because we're all different people.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this kind of gets to my next point, there are a lot of exercises and cool things to do in your book, and so is that something that people should work on daily as they're trying to work on these different laws?
Well, the exercises, I suggest doing those when you have time and you can dedicate the time to doing them, because some of them can be a little bit more involved. You're not going to want to do, the same exercise day after day after day. But I include an exercise, a try it now exercise, and then I also include practical application tips. Now, those practical application tips are things that you can review daily or several times throughout the day, and those are just little key sentences that can help you stay on track in regards to that particular law that you're working on. So those, I would say, yes, look at those daily, try, do them daily. And really, there's not really anything to do. It's just things to tell you how to stay on track.
Yeah, how to move forward with that. So, so kind of staying on track. Okay, let's see if I can do this, okay? Now we're talking. Yeah, I know, really, right? Now we're talking about frequency. And gosh, there are so many books out there that talk about frequency. And your book talks about it too. So how does this all relate with your book?
Well, with frequency, we all have our own personal vibration, which is our frequency. So when you're thinking about your frequency and you're thinking about the natural laws of the universe, if you are able to connect your core energy with the energy of these laws, then it just makes everything flow so much easier. And it makes understanding the law easier because you feel it. Like when I was writing this, I had to feel what that law meant and feel how I could express this law in the best ways. When you're using the book and you're understanding the laws, then your frequency connecting will help you understand how best to move forward in your own personal life and in your own specific situations with that law. Frequency is you knowing and understanding how you operate at a soul level and how your energy fluctuates up and down, how it lowers at times and how it raises at times. And my book, 365 Ways to Raise Your Frequency, can help you raise your frequency. It's got one exercise for every day of the year. Mm-hmm. So if you are in tune with your frequency, it just makes using the laws, so much better.
Well, I'm so glad you explained that, because I think a lot of times people get a little confused about frequency. It's like, we know about the transistor radio and how radio works. And
right.
At the same time, when we think about using it for ourselves or our lives, they can get a little foggy,
True, that's true. And one way I like to think about frequency, so, rocks, everything has a molecular, vibration to it. So as a person, once you figure out where your vibration is, you'll find that you attract other people of that same vibration. So if you take a look around you and you're not liking the friends or the acquaintances or the people that you know or the job that you have, think about your frequency. So this is the level you're vibrating at. If you make changes using the laws, and you elevate your frequency, then you'll start to notice that the people around you start changing, because you know why? You're attracting people at a higher level of frequency now. And being aware of your frequency can help you move forward on your spiritual path.
So it's just kind of like a marker in your road. So if you see something you're not liking, you go, well, wait a minute. I want to change this. So it's something more along the lines of what I would really want in my life.
Right. And I always think of it as like when I feel my own frequency, I feel it like energy just spiraling within me. And I feel it as a vibration, within me. And if I need to lift it up, I try to specifically look inside myself and make that vibration go faster. Because if I can make that vibration move faster, then I'm elevating my frequency. So it's just seeing yourself. We're all energy. So it's seeing yourself as energy and using that energy to make your life better and to understand yourself better as a spirit.
Yeah. Well, and that's such great information, because a lot of times people don't realize that that's even something that they can do.
That's true. That's true. I have people tell me that all the time.
What do you mean speed up my energy?
Yeah. You just have to get that thing vibrating and just, get it moving. And you'll be surprised. I mean, because if you're stuck in a low level energy and then you start to take steps to raise it and to increase your frequency, the changes, you'll start noticing little changes at first and then bigger changes. And it's all because you're working on yourself. And you're trying to make yourself a better spiritual being by increasing your frequency.
Mm-hmm. About moving all that. Well, and so when you were getting this book together, I mean, because we've covered so many great laws and different things here, was there one that kind of surprised you a little bit?
Surprised me. Mm-hmm. Let me think about that. Well, not really.
Mm-hmm. Or just one like, oh, yeah, you can't forget this one.
Well, I think one that's important is the law of clarity. And that's, I've always, on my psychic reading website, I always have used the tagline, add clarity, to your life. And that's what I've always tried to do through my readings, when I was doing readings. Right now I don't have time to do readings. But I think being clear about what you want out of life and being clear about yourself as a person is so important. And a lot of people, they let other people fog up their clarity, and you have to look inside yourself and look forward to your path and to be clear about what you want and where you're going. And the law of clarity can help you do that. And I think that's one that's really important to remember. That wasn't really a surprise to me, but it is one that I think is important.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so what final tips would you like to leave our listeners with as they kind of make this journey and figure out for themselves, of course, with your book, how to have a better life and how to map that out for themselves?
don't worry. And it's easy to say, don't worry about doing everything the way everybody else does it, okay? Everybody can tell you, oh, well, you have to do the law of attraction like this, or you have to do, you have to take these steps to do it right. There's no right or wrong way to do things when it comes to spirituality. It comes from within you, and you do it the way you feel is right. And always try to take the high road and to have a positive attitude and to look at the good in things and not the bad in things. Try to see the glass as half full, not half empty. And as you're working with the laws, really consider not only how they're affecting you or how you can use them to achieve what you want, but how are they on a universal scale? Because these laws are universal natural laws, and they apply to everyone, everywhere, everywhere. So if I'm using a law and you're using a law, we're all using the same or different laws, but it's a grander scale than somebody might, I'm like twisting my words. It's on a grander scale, and you need to look at the grand scale and your personal scale together. And just know that whatever you do, as long as you're trying and you're using the law of action and you're putting effort into what you want to do, then the things that you want to achieve will come to you eventually. It might not be when you want it, but they will come. And if they don't come, it's not because you did something wrong. It just may not be the time for that puppy. I keep coming back to the puppy.
You keep coming back to that puppy. I don't know. Maybe you need one too.
I have too many dogs.
You have too many dogs. Yeah. Well,
I do. My husband just got a puppy. So.
Aww.
Well, he's big. He's 100 pounds and he's only 7 months old. He's huge.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, and that's such great advice to hear, especially as we're going into this new year for people that are looking to make changes in their lives. So where can people connect with you and learn more, not just about this book, but all the books that you write, and learn how to be part of your community so if they need help in moving forward, they know where to get that?
Sure. You just go to my website. It's Melissa A. It's MELISSA. And then another A, .com. So it's for MelissaAlvarez.com. And they can connect with me there. My email is on my site. And then I've got a little store on my site. I've got all my books on my site. There's a whole bunch of information on the site. And then they can also connect with me on Facebook. It's Melissa Alvarez Author on Facebook. And my page there is Facebook.com/I am Melissa Alvarez, I think. I can't remember if I said I am Melissa or Melissa Alvarez. Try both.
Try both. Well, they can get to that from your website, right?
Yes, they can. And one thing I wanted to mention real quick, too, is I also designed a set of mini meditation cards that go along with Believe and Receive so that people can carry around. They're just little quotes from the book, and it's one for each of the 40 laws. The cards are about the size of business cards, and they can carry them around with them. And then if at any point during the day they feel like, wonder what law would be applicable right now. And then you could just draw a card and see what happens, and the quote there can give you guidance with what the situation is.
Yeah, and then they are able to move forward. Well, that's such a great resource. I'm so glad that you brought that up because, I always love having card decks that, maybe I don't have enough time to go through, and, I've read the book, but don't have enough time to pick it up and reread it and just want that instant inspiration.
Right, yeah, it's good for that. And when I designed them, I also did, each card has like color patterns, and I tried to intuitively put colors and patterns that would express the energy that I feel that law represents. So, you can also look at the colors and meditate on the colors and the energy patterns within the cards too. So.
And be able to do that. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I love coming on here and talking to you. It's so much fun every time.
We always have such a blast. Oh, my goodness, and learn so much in the process. And I'm so glad we're able to spend the time talking about your new book. I mean, how exciting is that?
Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.